Welcome back to my channel. You already know it's your boy Hood Diggity, the Rock Reactor, back with another video. Yes, sir. Before I proceed, let me know where you tapping in from. Let me know what country, what city, what mountain, what hill, what cave, what island, what planet, what universe. Let me know where you at. Represent your hood. Yes, sir. A world of peace, hopefully coming soon to my Ukraine. An abundance of love to my Ukraine. As I stand with God, I stand with Ukraine. Yes, sir. Now, I wanted to cover this. Now, Canal 13, they do a lot. Like, they just keep coming up with a lot of news, a lot of Ukraine news, overwhelming Ukraine news, back to back. Sometimes I try to take them with a grain of salt, but some of them I like to react to just to basically see what my people from Ukraine tells me. Now, this one is called "The War Spreads to Russian Cities. Millions of Russians are in panic. Moscow is also under threat." Now, first of all, I like to say, guys, that I do not in any way would rejoice to innocent citizens, specifically children, being bombed or being killed. I do not rejoice that, whether it's Russians or whether it's Ukrainians, whether it's my country, whether it's any country. However, there's a saying that says, and there's an American saying that says, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Now, I heard President Zelensky, and I did a reaction to this where he did say that he does not want to do that. That's not what he wants to do. But we need to stop the war. We need the Kremlin to make that decision to stop the war. So he said, in other words, is at the Kremlin's hands to stop the Ukrainians from bombing them and bombing the cities, because all they have to do is just stop the war. Now, please hear me out. This is what I understand it to be. Remember, I'm on the other side of the world, and I just take everything with a grain of salt. This is what I'm seeing, and I'm basing my opinion based on what I see. If I am wrong about what I am saying or what I am seeing, please correct me. I'm not affirming anything. But anyway, without further ado, let's get right to this. Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Any donations to my channel will be greatly appreciated. My PayPal account is on the description. Let's get right to this, guys. This is the war spreads in Russian cities.
In recent days, instead of progress in peace negotiations.
Also, guys, if there's anything fake about this, if I'm watching fake news or this is fake, please let me know if what they're reporting is real. If it's not real, please let me know, guys.
Russia and Ukraine have continued shelling. Ukraine is launching drone strikes in Russian regions, and drones regularly hit different targets. Recall that Ukraine's Western allies had lifted restrictions on long-range weapons attacks on Russian territory. In this case, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told the Axios show that if Russia won't end the war, officials working in the Kremlin should make sure they know where the nearest bomb shelter is. Zelensky said he had President Trump's explicit backing to hit
Gee, this is what I was saying. That was the video that I reacted to.
Russian targets like energy infrastructure and arms factories. And he said that if Ukraine gets additional long-range weaponry from the US, we will use it. Zelensky said Ukraine would not bomb civilians because we are not terrorists. But he suggested the centers of Russian power, like the Kremlin, were very much on the table. They have to know where the bomb shelters are. Zelensky said of Kremlin officials, they need it. If they will not stop the war, they will need it in any case.
Now, tell me if I'm wrong, guys. He did say we're not terrorists. We're not going to bomb innocent citizens. We're not terrorists. But guys, and that's awesome. I'm loving. I'm loving President Zelensky. I'm loving his action. I love the way he's going about this, because it's true. Two wrongs don't make a right, and not everybody in Russia is applauding and supporting Putin and the Kremlin. But what I'm saying is this: that I remember in the news, 2021, 2022, a lot of cities in Ukraine were being bombed. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that this is what needs to happen, but a lot of cities were being bombed. I'm sure innocent people, innocent children died. Innocent people, innocent children are still dying. A lot of families separated. A lot of infrastructure was destroyed. For Ukraine to come back from that, it's going to take years and years, maybe decades, maybe a century, who knows, to come back from all the infrastructure and all the damages that they caused, that Russia's caused. Now, bring it back, we come back to 2025, right? Ukraine doesn't want to do the same thing to Russia. But in this case, the Kremlin, it has the ball in their court, because all they have to do is stop the war. Stop the war. That's it. When it was the other way around, they couldn't stop the war. Zelensky couldn't have said, yeah, I'm going to stop the war. He could have said it, but they would have probably taken the whole, they would have probably just invaded the whole country, which wasn't an option at that time. But this time, all they have to do is say, listen, I want to stop the war, and everything stops. So they do have the option to avoid innocent human casualties.
The current war utilizes a wide range of unmanned aerial systems. These include interceptor drones, short and medium-range attack drones, and large drones for rear-line strikes. Defense Express reported that Ukraine currently produces over 200,000 drones per month. This represents a 900% annual increase in production. Ukraine is now increasing the number of drone strikes on Russian cities. The war is now spreading to Russian cities themselves. This means that millions of people are living in fear, given that UAVs are becoming increasingly dangerous. The best option during an emergency remains, of course, shelter. Hiding inside apartments and houses or going deeper into buildings is still a viable option, but it's not as safe during the shelling. But these are not available in many cities in Russia. In this situation, Ukraine is increasing the number of drone strikes. For example, Ukrainian drones struck the Afipsky oil refinery in southwestern Russia overnight on September the 26th, Russian authorities reported. Krasnodar Krai's regional operational headquarters reported that Ukrainian drones' debris fell on one of the refinery's units amid a wider drone attack on the region. The Russian officials claimed that a fire spanning 30 square meters was extinguished by crews. No casualties or infrastructure damage was sustained in the attack, officials claimed. Kiev continues to escalate its campaign against Russian oil and gas infrastructure, a key source of Moscow's revenues, helping to fuel its all-out invasion of Ukraine. The refinery, located roughly 200 kilometers from the front line, serves as a strategic logistics hub for diesel fuel and aviation kerosene used by Russian troops. The refinery is also key to Russia's economic might, processing 6.25 million tons of oil annually, or 2.1% of Russia's entire oil refining output. The refinery has been targeted multiple times since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces said on August the 7th that a successful strike on the Afipsky oil refinery damaged a technical...
I'm glad they didn't forget the term. I'm glad they didn't forget that. I'm glad this was reported like this. Russia's full-scale invasion. We always need to remember that.
Unit of the refinery.
Speaking to...
And I believe that the Russian citizens, the innocent citizens, specifically the ones who support the Kremlin, may God protect the ones that don't. May God protect all of them. But the ones that support the Kremlin need to understand that if they're scared and they have to hide and they have to do this and they have to be aware and hide their children, be aware of bombs and their infrastructure and their houses getting bombed, they need to understand the term. This was all due to Russia's full-scale invasion.
World leaders this week, U.S. President Donald Trump claimed that climate change wasn't real, that green energies were bad investments, and that high electricity bills in Europe were leading to heat deaths. The statements were false or misleading. According to Associated Press, here are the facts. Since the 19th century, scientists have known that the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere raises global temperatures. The temperature increase alters normal weather variations, making extreme events like flooding and heat waves more likely and intense. This climate change, it's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion, Trump said. Trump has long been a critic of climate science and policies aimed at helping the world transition to green energies like wind and solar. His speech last Tuesday at the United Nations General Assembly, however, was one of his most...
Now, I never heard anybody say that. Trump is the only person ever that I've heard that the climate change is the biggest con job. I'm not saying it's right, he's right or he's wrong, because I never really studied what's up with the climate change. You know, I'm very dumb when it comes to things like that, but he's the only one I've ever heard say that. That's crazy.
Expansive to date. It included false statements and making connections between things that are not connected. Trump called renewable sources of energy like wind power a joke and pathetic, falsely claiming they don't work, are too expensive and too weak. Solar and wind are now, almost always, the least expensive and the fastest options for new electricity generation, according to a July report from the United Nations. That report also said the world has passed a positive tipping point, where those energy sources will only continue to become more widespread. The three cheapest electricity sources globally last year were onshore wind, solar panels, and new hydropower, according to an energy cost report by the International Renewable Energy Agency. Subsidies endorsed by Trump and the Republican Party are artificially keeping fossil fuels viable, said University of Pennsylvania climate scientist Michael Mann. Relatedly, Trump falsely claimed European electricity bills are now 2 to 3 times higher than the United States, and our bills are coming way down.
For the United States, we're supposed to pay like $1 trillion. And I said, this is another scam.
Speaking to world leaders this week, U.S. President Donald Trump claimed that climate change wasn't real, that green energies were bad investments, and that high electricity bills in Europe were leading to heat deaths. The statements were false or misleading. Here are the facts.
I think Trump may have gone overboard on this, guys. Guys, I'm thinking about doing a whole video on Trump. I want to do a whole video because Trump is like, people either hate him or people either love him. I'm probably the only one that's in between. I don't hate Trump. There's a lot of I more like Trump than hate Trump. I more like him, and I respect him. I think he's gangster because Trump is a patriot. At the end of the day, Trump is American, and Trump is for United States, and Trump is for America. He is radical. He's radical as hell. He goes overboard. He does some extra shit. He does some gangster shit. He's a little bit extravagant. Like I said, he's extra, but at the end of the day, he works for the American people, and I wish I had a Trump in my country.
Since the 19th century, scientists have known that the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere raises global temperatures. The temperature increase alters normal weather variations, making extreme events like flooding and heat waves more likely and intense. This is all well established, but here is what the president said.
This climate change, it's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. Climate change, no matter what happens, you're involved.
Now, notice how he said, in my opinion. He sounds like me now. In my opinion. Excuse me, guys. In my opinion.
Involved in that. No more global warming, no more global cooling. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong.
According to the United Nations, wind and solar power are today almost...
I think Trump should have been advised before he made that comment or before he addressed climate change like that, because he's the only one I ever heard say that. Like I said, I'm not saying he's wrong, I'm not saying he's right, but I think he may have crossed the line there, like when he told us to drink bleach.
Always the cheapest sources of new electricity generation, but Trump claimed they didn't work and were not profitable.
The wind doesn't blow. Those big windmills are so pathetic and so bad, so expensive to operate. And they have to be rebuilt all the time, and they start to rust and rot. Most expensive energy ever conceived, and it's actually energy. You're supposed to make money with energy, not lose money. You lose money, the governments have to subsidize. You can't put them out without massive subsidies.
I think Trump needed to be advised. I think somebody, like, you know, they needed to sit him down before he made a comment like that, or before he said that. I think he's talking just out of his mouth. I think he's talking without base. I don't think, because he's the only one I've ever heard say that. Like I said, I'm not saying he's wrong, but he just, what he's saying is not. He should ask some scientists, and he should ask the people that actually work in it. It sounds like he's talking, but he don't know what he's talking about. And of course, I believe maybe to him, from a businessman point of view, because he is a businessman, he's going to make more money with the oil. So the oil is going to make more money around, so he doesn't care about climate change until we all flooded because of all the icebergs. Iceberg flood up the whole. But then I'm talking ignorant just like him, but that's what it seems like to me. But anyway, guys, man, that's another news. I'm gonna do a whole video on Trump. I'm thinking about doing a whole video on Trump because Trump got a lot going on, man. And there's, like I said, there's things that I more like him than dislike him. There's a lot of stuff that he does. He's extra. He's radical. He's gangster. He's been through a lot. Respect the shit out of him. He's a tough guy. But I think that at the end of the day, Trump was the best choice this last election, by far. Kamala Harris would have drove the United States to the ground. Like literally, like big time. But anyway, I'm going to talk about more of that. I'm going to make a video sometime maybe next week. I don't know when, but I'm going to make a whole video for Trump. I just need to. But anyway, guys, also, like I said, guys, I am not for bombing any cities with innocent civilians. However, in this case, the Kremlin does have the option to stop the war, and if they don't stop the war, I believe Zelensky's not going to have much of a choice. Okay, and in this case, what type of leader would they be if they, on the course of a war, they have a lot of citizens just dying, innocent people just because they don't want to stop the war. That would be on them. Anyway, guys, you guys already know, man. Subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell. Hit the like button. I'm going to do one with Zelensky when he spoke on the United Nations. I seen a little clip of that, and I loved what he said. I want to do the whole thing. So you guys let me know what you guys think, guys. I normally do this because I want to know what my Ukrainian people think. I want to know what people think about what I'm saying, what you think about this video. And just educate me, guys, because a lot of times I don't have time to watch the news all the time because I got so much going on. But anyway, guys, you guys already know, man. Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Any donations to my channel will be greatly appreciated. My PayPal account is on in the description. Love you, Ukraine. Peace, love, and God bless.